So why do you need an oil catch can anyway? Should it have everything it needs from the factory? Well, of course not. So the reason you need an oil catch can is really two reasons. The first is these engines are pretty high compression engines. And we're also having a lot more boosted engines with all these EcoBoost engines out there. We've got boosted engines pushing compressed air into the cylinders. What's happening is we're getting more blow-by past the cylinders into the crankcase. And that's being vented back into the intake manifold. And then that is where our second problem comes in. These are all direct injected engines, which means that instead of being port injected, the fuel is shot directly into the cylinder instead of into the intake manifold or, above the valves. So this dirty, oily air that we have blown past the cylinder, we've rerouted back into the intake, is making those intake valves dirty. It's those oil particles are depositing on the valves and caking up and causing soot and residue to form on the intake valves. Well, we no longer have those injectors in the intake manifolds cleaning the valves. Now they're directly injecting into the cylinders, so that's not being washed off at every cycle. So it's a two-problem issue. Is we've got more blow-by and they're direct injected now. But here's the secret. Ford makes an oil catch can for these engines. They only market it for the 5-liter in the F150, but Ford makes an oil catch can. They know, it's an issue. They just don't install it from the factory. It's more of a performance thing, so they market it to the 5-liter in the F150s. There are, of course, several models of oil catch can available. I have this one from JLT, and it's mounted right here. And you can see it's got this little can right here that you can twist off, and I'll show you that. And it's got these two hoses. These two hoses run to the engine, and I'll show you where those go. To install it, you've got to get under this decorative cover here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and we're going to take a look at where those hoses are running. So now we can see where this oil catch can is running the hoses to. From the factory, you've got this one little loop hose right here, and it just goes from here to here. And what that does is it takes that crankcase pressure and relieves it into the intake manifold. And then this goes into the turbochargers and goes back into the engine. That's where the problem comes from. The oil vapors from the crankcase are exhausted through this hose into the intake manifold, and they deposit themselves on the back sides of those intake valves, but those intake valves aren't cleaned off by the fuel injectors like they would be on a port injected engine. So since this is a direct injected engine, those oil vapors are just sitting and caking and cooking on the back of those intake valves, and it's gumming up those intake valves. So what we're doing here, instead of routing it directly to the intake, and this couldn't be simpler, instead of routing it directly to the intake, we're routing it instead first to this, and I'll open this up and I'll show you how this works. And it just simply deposits that oil vapor in this can for us to drain, and then that air is exhausted back out of the can through this hose and then into the intake manifold. It takes the same path, just makes a pit stop to drop off as much of that oil vapor as possible. Now, there will be some oil vapor that probably makes it still through. It's not a perfect system, but it's going to deposit a lot of that oil vapor in that can. And you can empty that pretty frequently, about every oil change, people say. So I'm going to take that off. I've had it on here for several thousand miles, probably longer than I should have. And I'm going to take it off so you can see what I've been capturing and what you've been missing out on. Just look at this. So this canister holds 3 ounces. That's why it's called the JLT 3.0. It's 3 ounces. But that's quite a bit of oil, and it's actually pretty clean. It's not too bad. Sometimes I've seen pictures, these guys pull them off, and I mean they're covered, they're milky, they've got all kinds of stuff mixed in there, and it's terrible and it looks awful. This looks like pretty clean oil. And I don't really know what the difference is, why sometimes it comes out the way it does. But that's quite a bit of oil that would have gone straight back into the combustion chamber or onto the back of my intake valves, and that we've captured it. So the easiest thing to do is just take it and toss it out with the rest of your oil during an oil change. So this is what I was talking about when I said it usually comes out kind of milky. It's this crap down in the bottom. Usually that's mixed in the times I've seen it, but I don't have too much of it. It's just water that got mixed in with the oil and some other liquids and stuff that just accumulates and it mixes in with the oil. But normally it would be sent back into the intake and be circulating around, but instead we've captured it. So I'd rather it be in this can than in my engine. And you don't have to clean this out super well. That's not going to go back into the engine. Just, you know, dump it out and screw it back in. It's real easy. So I went ahead and pulled the kind of the base of it out of my truck. I wanted to show you how it works. It's very simple. This is a simple design. This is the side that oil comes in on, and it's a little brass filter, and all it does is it's designed to help that oil vapor condense and turn back into liquid form. That way it collects in the bottom of the can, and then it just simply, the air just simply goes back around out to the outlet, back to the intake manifold. That's all it is. Now you can get some models that are a little bit fancier. They'll have a bigger filter. They might have some check valves and one-way valves, and you know, a little bit, you know, a baffle would be really good down in the can. This one doesn't have a baffle. This is a very simple design, but it's also one of the cheapest, and it does the job pretty well. But you can get more advanced ones if that's, you know, up your alley. So installation is, of course, super easy. You use this factory stud right there as the mounting screw for this, and they give you a new nut, and all you have to do is slide this bracket on here like so. I'm going to leave that loose for a minute. I'm just going to give it a couple spins just to make sure it's on there, but I'm going to keep it loose. I'll move those out of the way. And like I said, this is that factory hose. It goes right here on these two connections. You just pop them off. This is the factory hose. It's super easy to remove. It's just got this little clip right here, and you just give it a pull. That'll unhook it, and then you can pull it straight off. It doesn't need twisting or anything. You just unclip and pull straight up. And then you route your aftermarket hoses to their respective places. So the 90-degree bend goes on the crankcase vent right there, and it just pushes on, and then you've got a 45-degree connector, and it goes on the intake manifold, just like that. Tighten this down a little bit more. Perfect. So of course, the question everybody wants to have answered, do I need an oil catch can? The answer is, I'm not here to tell you. I'm here to tell you what I've done. Obviously, I've got an oil catch can in my truck. And that it's not going to hurt your truck. It might benefit your truck. And there's really not any evidence either way. So it's all anecdotal. It sounds like a good idea. We've been doing it for decades, not on these trucks, obviously, but in the automotive industry. It's been done for decades. So why not? It's not going to hurt anything, and it might help. And it's not that expensive. This one I picked up, I think, for about 130, 140 bucks. Prices fluctuate, so don't quote me on that. But if you're interested, I will drop a link to this one and a higher end one down in the description below, so you can check it out if you want to buy one. Use that link down in the description below. It helps me out, and you can get one for yourself. Hit this like button if you like this video. Might as well hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Make sure you get some more videos like this in your inbox. Hit that bell icon. Make sure you get notifications anytime I upload a new video. Make sure you drop a comment down in the comment section below. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on oil catch cans. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching.